Thanks everybody for joining. This is Dan Ruane with Workday, and we are about to start a few minutes late. Thanks for your patience. The Optimizing Financial Planning for Law Firms with Workday Adaptive Planning. I'm Dan Ruane. I'm a financials account executive here at Workday, focused on our professional and business services customers, which includes law firms. My colleague Mark Bonner is trying to join right now. We're not quite sure if Mark will be able to make it. But then Bo Mellon from our partner Active Cyber is also joining us. And Bo is going to be doing most of the presentation today. Bo is a solution strategist at Active Cyber. So this is just a safe harbor statement that you're probably used to seeing with Workday presentations. The presentation may contain forward-looking statements and a discussion of future or planned functionality. Workday's roadmap and planned features are subject to change. So today we're going to be demoing using currently released functionality. But it is important that you make all of your purchase decisions based on what is currently available. So quick review of the agenda, and we'll get right to it. We're going to just give you a high-level overview of what adaptive planning is and some of the value points there. Bo's going to then spend most of the presentation doing a product demonstration. We'll come back and talk a little bit about some success with a Workday customer. And then finally, we'll open it up for a question and answer. So Bo, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks, Dan. We're excited for the conversation today, guys. Workday Adaptive Planning is a extremely holistic and organizational-wide tool to enable you all to plan better. So more strategic analysis, more quick access to KPIs, reports, dashboarding, things like that. And part of the reason we're able to do this is through the investment Workday is putting back into the solution. So that performance piece that we're talking about here in the bottom is through Workday Adaptive Planning's elastic hypercube technology, we are able to handle a lot of data intersections and a lot of data granularity. So whether you're pulling in information from an ERP, a time tracking solution, an HRIS, a SQL server, a data warehouse, we're able to bring in that information extremely quickly and easily into models that are able to perform a lot of detailed granular calculations into the millions of data intersections. So performance without compromise can be accomplished through that elastic hypercube technology. So a couple of things to hit on here. Workday Adaptive Planning, absolutely a best-in-class planning solution. So doing adaptive for not only FP&A, but also today we're going to sprinkle in some workforce planning for HR tools. So continuous and company-wide planning throughout the solution. Like I said, system agnostic. So that's when we think about the automated integration and the data source piece, pulling in information from accounting system, ERP, HR solution, time tracking, you name it. So that's that intelligent data core as well. And then the real-time planning, executing, and analyzing. Extreme added value there as well when we connect back to an HCM or your HRIS to be able to go ahead and analyze those positions. So here we go. This is sprinkling in some of the HCM and the planning perspective here, where we're going to go ahead and take a look at some utilization, resource review, and allocation today. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at staffing for our various attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants, and being able to track, are they being utilized appropriately? Are they being allocated to the correct case to ensure that resource allocation is going appropriately? The real next stage of this too is when we think about headcount reconciliation and tracking our new hires versus what we are actually going ahead and what are we budgeting for that position? And then once that position actually gets filled, let's go ahead and compare the two and saying, are we having some start date variance? Are we having some salary variance? Things of that nature. And then obviously, if you're a Workday HCM customer, we can go ahead and publish those planning actions straight back from our adaptive planning environment back into your core HR solution to really close the loop. And this shows off the exponential value of adaptive connecting to your other source systems and your other sources of truth. So a one unified plan between our business plan, our financial statements, and our HRIS solution. Okay, so this is just kind of enhancing to how's adaptive used, right? Not only just for the FP&A team, but operational team, workforce planning team as well. So obviously, we're going to get you guys a granular, specific, accurate P&L and balance sheet forecast, but tracking that headcount plan, tracking maybe bringing in some demand and CRM information for demand planning, pipeline forecasting, IT planning. Today, we're really going to also dive into what project planning looks like. So when we're thinking about specific interactions down to the client, down to the case, down to the service type, and who are the actual roles and resources associated to each individual case or client or project they're working on to get us really accurate, specific, and pointed forecasting information from a utilization, resourcing perspective, direct costs, and also revenue and commissions associated with that case. So planning essentially used throughout the entire organization, but today we're going to be hitting on, like I said, mostly financial planning and resource and project planning. So this is getting into some of the legal specific use cases. So if you guys are taking a look over here at the KPIs and drivers here on the far right, what adaptive planning and some of the modeling that we're going to take a look at today is going to enable you guys to get down to gross margin, case by case. We're going to be able to track utilization by our attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants, you name it. What is the actual billable hours and rates associated with each individual attorney or resource? Maybe you guys have attorneys that are out bringing in net new business. And if it's someone from their internal network or a connection that they've made in throughout their years in practice, right? Maybe there's some commissions payable that is due to go to that attorney. So we're going to take a look at that. Obviously, revenue per attorney, we're going to dive into on a revenue dashboard. And then case duration. Maybe you're wanting to bring in, we're going to take a look at off the bat here in a second, taking a look at our current clients and services from a holistic practice-wide view, and then being able to track the amount of hours that are forecasted and that have actually been worked to see how long has this case been open. Is this something that we are still going to be planning for out into the future? Things of that nature. And then inherently part of adaptive is comparing those scenarios as well, and being able to just, create those rolling forecasts. So through adaptive, we have unlimited version capability, which is where we're able to have different types of drivers, assumptions for accomplishing all of those use cases and KPIs that we talked about. So 6,500 customers, over 6,500 customers are now on Workday Adaptive Planning today for a lot of those reasons that we talked about, right? The automated integration, the reporting, the connected modeling across the overall instance, Office Connect, that Microsoft Suite extension. And what we're really excited about too is the artificial intelligence and the machine learning forecasting capabilities. So Workday as a whole is investing a lot of resources and time into enabling the companies to use the intelligent forecaster to leverage past historical actuals and get us a granular specific forecast out into the future here. Quick time to value, right? So when we think about an implementation lifecycle, also, this is something that we can get up and running for you pretty quickly. It's not going to be as heavy as an undertaking as some other source of truth systems out there, right? We're going to be able to get you guys up and live pretty quickly leveraging adaptive planning. So quick time to value. And ultimately, this is a system by finance for finance. So after some enablement and getting your hands dirty in some of the models, you all as end users in a finance department are going to be the ones that are going to be able to own this system in the long run without some external third-party help here. So that gets into the ownership and governance side, right? This is a tool you guys are going to be able to own. And then you're never too far away from like a Workday community, right? You're going to have a lot of support through the on-demand training. You're going to be able to access through your CSM, or if you wanted to lean on a partner for some more mature modeling use cases, right? You're never going to be far away from accessing help in your adaptive planning journey. Next slide here, Dan. Thank you. Okay, so that is what we had to cover here. Now, guys, we are going to go ahead and jump on into the demonstration here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and go off camera here as well, and then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go ahead and dive in. So now we're taking a look at a legal services planning dashboard. So we have here for the next about, roughly 30, 40-ish minutes here, guys. I see a lot of great names here in the chat of some of our registrants. So thank you all for joining. And up here in the top of your webinar pane, you'll be able to see a questions box. So if at any time today, y'all, you have a question pop up, please feel free to put it over in that chat box, and we will make sure that we can get to it. This can be about overarching adaptive wide questions that you guys have, interactions with your different data sources and sources of truth, or even questions about the specific legal services and legal industry IP we're going to be taking a look at today. Please feel free to put those questions in the chat. We like keeping these super interactive. And like I said, we will be monitoring that questions and chat box throughout the demonstration today. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive on in. So we are sitting in what's called an active dashboard. So you see up here, we're sitting in a legal services planning perspective, and then I have dashboards for overall company overview, revenue, utilization, resource review, commissions, and expenses. We're going to be diving into all of these that are specific and pointed for our customers that are in the law industry, legal industry. So a lot of times, some of our customers too love dashboards and are leveraging it to its fullest extent, but a decent amount of customers out there still really aren't grasping the power of what active dashboards can do for you. So you guys know on the line here, we have our sheets and our assumptions that are going to go ahead and be our models, right? We're housing our, ramp schedule for different types of attorneys. What does our utilization modeling look like? And then on our assumption sheet, maybe we have expectations for hours worked in a week to help us calculate utilization. What are the different bill rates for the different types of attorneys we have, right? All of these sheets and our assumptions, a lot of our customers just go to this pane and navigate there, click, and go access our model. But what's great about these active dashboards is that you can actually bring all of those sheets and all of those assumptions into one centralized area where you can see here, we're taking a look at a current clients and services overview, as well as taking a look at some potential new clients that have retainers with us. We can go ahead and bring in all of that information into this one centralized active dashboard. What's great about these is this is going to stay dynamic and up to date with you guys as you make your planning actions and as you go about putting together your future looking forecast. So to start here, we're taking a look at a current clients and services model. For a lot of our customers that we work with inside of professional business services, they're going to have some type of billing software or time tracking information, right? Where we're going ahead and we're billing our work to our certain customers, to our certain clients or cases by our specific types. And then obviously this is going to be down to each individual. So we have different legal resources, different roles, service types. Right? We want to enable all of these different intersections of metadata to be able to come into our model so we can have a specific, detailed, granular plan. We're able to go ahead and integrate all of this back in, right? So you can come on in, map your hours worked to your different models by, like I said, every single individual data intersection. In this model here, you can see we're bringing in our hours worked by our different legal resource. So in this example, client 3, or one of our third clients for one specific case, is going ahead and splitting out the hours worked by our different attorneys or paralegals or legal assistants. We can come in here and add what's called in splits into our modeling to give you guys quick time to value when we think about resource allocation. If you know maybe you have a customer that you all are billing 200 hours a month to, and you have a certain assumption that breaks down those hours worked between attorney, researcher, paralegal, assistant, right? You can key in your 200 hours assumptions and then use that actual hours allocation to split out the hours that are going to be billed by our individual resources across our firm to ultimately get us to an accurate time forecast. As you know, in the law industry, our people are our source of revenue, and similarly, hours worked times our rates. So we can see here, client 3, case 1. I want to go ahead and drill in and get granular here. So This case started out in January of 2023. This individual worked 80 hours here. I can right click on this row here, going into row details. Ooh, I'm going to go ahead and actually pause my share really quickly and readjust this so I can share my entire screen when I go ahead and show off the contents here. So, okay, now I'm resharing. We're going to go ahead and take a look right here. Client 3, case 1, starts in January 2023. I'm going to go ahead and scroll on over to January 2023, and that's when we're seeing the hours per day, per week, per month across our case. This is the revenue, so 80 hours a month are being worked for this individual. They have a bill rate of $350 an hour. That's getting $28,000 of revenue forecasted per month for this specific attorney, for this case, for this client. So those $28,000 are then going to flow on back through to our P&L forecast. One of the great things about Adaptive is the interconnectivity across our entire environment. So if I were to go make an update inside of our hours sheet, we would save that change and see it flow on through to our P&L, see it flow on through to our balance sheet. So we're able to do resource allocation and revenue forecasting right here, taking a look at our pretty comprehensive hours worked by specific client, by specific case here. We can lay in all of these dimensions. Whenever we are thinking about reporting on specific revenue or expenses or operational metrics inside of your adaptive planning environment, we're going to want to make sure that we go ahead and dimensionalize this data. Dimensionalizing your data is just adding elements of information. So think type of service, so real estate or corporate law. This role is a dimension, and then the specific resource is a dimension as well. It's going to allow us to build out KPIs, reports, dashboards for all of this information. Now, one of the other critical things I like talking about when we think about dimensionality inside of our adaptive planning instance is when we're going back and integrating to that source system, we can set up what's called these metadata loaders as well. So people on the line that are familiar with metadata, this is going to be often being our level structure. So maybe different departments that we have inside of the organization. You guys can see here our different parents, companies that we have, or maybe we're thinking of this as a dimension. When something gets created inside of our ERP or time tracking system or HRIS, this is going to have sometimes cause us to have to go create this dimension in the back end through our modeling area here as well. But when we set that integration up, we'll set up what's called an automated metadata loader. So as that new resource gets made in our HRIS inside of Workday HCM, or as that new client or case is generated inside of our CRM, those automated metadata loaders will automatically create that value for you back inside of Adaptive as well. Can save you guys a lot of time in the long run when we think about mapping and sending the information from your source back to your models inside of your Adaptive instance. So this is kind of that overview, right? We're able to keep on scrolling and see all of our different clients or cases. Do we think this is going to be successful? And when are the hours going ahead and being billed here? So this assists us with, like I said, our utilization metrics and our overall revenue forecast. You can then drill on in here and see what are our open engagements. You can drill on into this and see the project. So I can drill on down my project, see all of the specific cases, how many projects are open with a specific customer, when are new clients joining us, things of that nature. Maybe you want to track your hours billed year over year, right? That's the source of and the lifeline of our business is our billable hours. I want to see what are we doing this fiscal year versus what are we doing last fiscal year. And we can go in and drill on in on all of this as well to see potentially what was that big driver of March this year over March last year. Can drill on down and ultimately get to that root cause of our information, right? That's one of the key pieces of our active dashboards is being able to make an update, save that change, drill on in throughout. Okay, so that's that overview tab, and quite often that's how we start when we put these active dashboards together, is going ahead and kicking it off with an overview and kind of corporate company summary tab on our dashboard here. So now I'm going to kind of jump in and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into our plan. So let's take a look at what it would actually be like if we wanted to go ahead and put this revenue forecast together. So this is out of the gate. We can see here, right, when I drilled back and took a look at our attorney on our last current clients and services sheet, we were able to see that they had that bill rate of $350 an hour for this specific attorney. Now, This can be completely role by role specific. So we can see here, obviously, our attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants have different billable rates. And this can also be company specific, right? Many people on the line, I'm sure, have law offices throughout the entire country. Maybe the rates don't look exactly the same across the board. Maybe we have some location adjustments or things of that nature, right? Or maybe you're trying to level up and do some great version comparison and scenario analysis. You can come in here and add in a new version or add in a new scenario and say, what would our revenue and our margin, you can see here we have our gross margin by every single individual case. What would that look like if I spun up a new scenario here? I could come on in here and say increased rate in this new scenario and go ahead and click create. Now, these new personal what if scenarios are also a pretty new feature of adaptive planning. This came out in R1 of March this year. There are 2 software releases a year. We have a release in March and a release in September, where Workday is constantly investing back into the product. So I came up here and I spun up a new scenario. You can see here, increased rate. I made a copy off of my fiscal year annual legal plan for that. My increased rate scenario is essentially a sandbox duplication and creation where I'm having all of the similar data that I grabbed from my annual legal plan, and now I'm working in my own personal environment. So me as an end user, Bo, has an increased rate scenario where I want to see what would happen to our gross margin if I came on in here and I increased our billable rates for attorneys from 350 up to 375. I can go in, key that adjustment, save that change. And now you're seeing our gross margin KPI automatic and profitability automatically update by 2,000 extra dollars when I increase the rate by 20 bucks. So, 100 hours times 20 bucks increase, 2 grand extra on our gross margin. Now you can see here, I made an update to my attorney intersection for company-wide billable rate amount. When we generate these new personal what if scenarios in your adaptive instance and we make a change, it's quite easy to be able to see the impact and see what we edited. So you can see here, my amount column is completely highlighted. And the reason for that is since I'm working in my new increased rate scenario, that is a change that I made off of my initial annual legal plan. So when I make those updates, I can ultimately see the update into my gross margin, revenue, associated, right? I have a revenue KPI that increased. If I were to make this back to our original base 350 and save that change, you'll see what happens to our revenue KPI. It goes down roughly $24,000 for the month of February when we adjust that bill rate by our role and by our attorney. So what's great about this too is, when we're working with professional business services organizations and law firms specifically, right, tracking direct cost and the cost of our workforce is huge when we're wanting to be able to get to margin by every single individual case. So you can see here, we've enabled a scorecard for gross margin by service engagement, where we're able to track our revenue. I can drill on into that too and see by resource or by role, maybe gross margin. I want to drill on into the $23,000. And we can see that legal resource 5, one of our attorneys, makes up $22,000 of that gross margin in the month of February for case 1. So layering in all of those dimensions that we talked about earlier is going to go and be quite imperative when we're putting together this case overview modeling for you guys out there. And when we're doing this revenue forecasting, is that so we can get down to top line revenue, but also direct labor costs associated and other cost of goods sold assumptions and metrics that may be needed to get us down to gross margin by every single individual case. Maybe we want to take a look at the cost associated. I can drill on into the 10.9 and see the cost breakdown between all of our different legal resources in the month of February that are associated with that individual case, right? These can get quite granular and specific based on the modeling that we set up. And then now if I go ahead and I make that update to that bill rate by role, and I go ahead and I, key that back to 375 and save that change, we'd be able to go on back to our initial overview tab and then say, okay, we took a look at the 80 hours a month forecast a little bit earlier, and we can see not only is that revenue KPI going to update there, but if I scroll on over, over down to January where that goes into play. Our revenue was 28,000, now it's 30,000, right? There's that 2 grand upgrade inside of gross margin for case one for client one. So making a couple tweaks to our assumptions quickly in these new scenarios, we're able to see our instance-wide ramifications and our effective bill rate go up. So tweaking a couple dollar% assumptions, or maybe we want to do this for growth metrics, or maybe you guys are thinking about changing your utilization bonuses or your commission percent payable that is going out to your various billable attorneys. You could spin up your new personal what if scenario, make those changes without actually impacting your base version. Now, if you wanted to say, hey, that $375 rate is actually what we're going to go forward with when we're putting together our future looking forecast, you can then open up your navigation pane, navigate on over to scenarios, pull up your scenario manager and say, okay, here's that increased rate scenario I made. Now I want to go ahead and merge that. And so if I clicked merge here, now my annual plan for my legal version would reflect that new up-to-date rate that we went ahead and added. Now, our customers come to us and they say, now, what if I merge that? And what I want to be able to go back and see the changes that I made, right? You can go ahead and download these scenarios and then export them out and see the changes that you made to go ahead and cover your bases, right? So if you merge your version and you want to know what happened, you could go ahead and download those changes made in your scenario. And then maybe if you say, okay, all I want to do was quickly see what the impact would be like if we up that billable rate by 25 bucks. I want to go back and see and say, all right, we can go ahead and delete this. I delete my increased rate scenario. And now if I come on back and refresh my dashboard, I would go on back to my legal plan and work in my legal plan since we don't have that scenario available for us anymore. So now we're back and we see that initial effective bill rate based off that $350 an hour revenue, things like that. A couple other things I want to hit on this dashboard before we keep moving on is maybe this is a great view for your CFO, right? And maybe your CFO isn't as adaptive savvy as some of you guys on the line or end users. What you can do is set up these snapshot schedules. So maybe I want to say our CFO, Matt, is going to go ahead and get this dashboard sent to them once a week. So on Fridays, at noon before Matt heads off to the golf course for the weekend, we can go ahead and set up this snapshot schedule. And this dashboard is going to send this user an automated notification straight to their inbox. They can click on that notification, and then this is going to pull up the dashboard for them, and they're going to be able to drill on in and view all of your KPIs, your metrics, view your forecast. So we can set up these automated schedules for these dashboards. We can also set up these automated schedules for our web reports as well to go out to our end users on that scheduled cadence. And this just helps further organizational wide adoption. Okay, so that is going to go ahead and get us our revenue, right? And then maybe we want to come on down and bring on in a P&L where we're taking a look at our corporate and our real estate law, getting us down to our gross margin, and then maybe we want to layer in our OPEX, our payrolls coming from our salary sheet, office expense coming from our OPEX model. You get the gist there. So utilization, right? This is a huge KPI and a huge metric that all of our customers and professional services need to be able to track. Law firms no different. We're in this example for our utilization, we've come in and set hours per week assumptions. So right now we have our attorneys set for their utilization assumptions to go off of 40 hours a week. Our paralegals at 45, you can see 180 expectation, and our legal assistants at 32. So you can see that for 128 hours a week. Now, our total hours and our actual hours worked are coming back from that current clients and services model we took a look at a little bit earlier on. That is where we can go ahead and adjust resource allocation if we need to go ahead and do so. So you can see this scorecard looking down at February 2023. If I came on back to my original current clients and services tab, I could come on in here for legal resource 5 and maybe take out their hours worked in February. Save that change. And what's great is, like I said, we're able to see the impact of this across the board. I come on back to my utilization tab, and now we see that this resource is underutilized, right? I can come on back ensure that this resource is actually working those 80 hours, just, for quick demo purposes. Save that change. System's going to recalculate for us. I come on back to my utilization tab, and now boom, up back by to 170 hours work. Our utilization update is there as well. So what's great about this is we can also set in some conditional formatting. So if someone's way underutilized, this chart here is going to flag this resource as red. I can hover over them and see legal resource 21 is extremely underutilized, as well as legal resource 29. So I could come on back and see legal resource 29 is an attorney that's only at 56% utilized for us. Maybe legal resource 29 should take some of the burden as opposed to legal resource 2 on some of these hours, right? If I wanted to come on here on a smaller engagement and update this from legal resource 27 or 19 to legal resource 29, go ahead and I save my change. This is just us doing some resource allocation and some scenario analysis. I can come on back to my utilization metric and see legal resource 29. All right, they're a bit more utilized now, right? We can see our 66%. Go ahead and update there. We're able to quickly and easily track. This is great too for budget versus actuals, right? Maybe we want to have our budget where our attorneys are expected to bill 160 hours a week or a month, sorry. And we can come on back, and once our integration runs or we import in our actual hours worked into our timesheet in Adaptive, we can go back and compare the two and run some scenario analysis there. So utilization, right? Huge KPI. That's a big driver for y'all's business as a whole. So definitely calling this out and ensuring that, our resources are being allocated appropriately across the organization, case by case, project by project. Again, like I talked about earlier, all of this drillable. So we can come on in, where do those 190 hours make up? Where are they coming from? Drill on into 190, and we can see the case breakdown of, this resource 128% utilized. They're on a lot of different projects. What are they? Drill on in. I'm able to quickly be able to see. All right. So that's utilization and revenue and overall case overview. Keeping to move along here, we have about 10 15 minutes left here, so I want to jump in and take a look at resource review. I told you guys we were going to sprinkle in a little bit of workforce planning here. This is an exciting piece of Adaptive, right? Dan and I touched on it earlier, but Adaptive is a system that can enable you guys for company-wide planning. We're able to go ahead and track our active headcount for our attorneys, who are the people that are still ramping, and maybe we have a gap, and is anyone joining next month? So everyone on the line, I'm sure, is quite familiar with ramping schedules. This is that works, and whether you're a consulting organization, a law firm, an accounting firm, people don't join an organization, and most of the time they aren't expected to bill at 100% utilization out of the gate, right? So if we have a new attorney join us, we can come on in here and apply what's called these ramp schedules. So we can see, all right, for a new attorney, we expect them to be 100% utilized and 100% billing after 10 months at being at the firm. Maybe we're having someone join us that is an accelerated hire. They are bringing along their own large book of business to our law firm, or it's someone that is pretty familiar with our company practices, isn't going to need too much onboarding or training or mentoring, right? They're an accelerated hire for us. We are going to have to expect to have this individual fully billing already at month 5, and at month 2, they're going to be at 50% of their allocation. So we're going to expect that attorney on that accelerated ramp type to go ahead and be billing 20 hours a week out of the gate. And then month 6 comes along, they're going to be billing 40 hours. All of these utilization metrics and ramping schedules, we can then track to say, what are our new hires doing? How ramped are they? Are they far along in the ramping process? Things like that. So now connecting this back to our workforce plan, right? Let's scroll on down and look at a couple examples of a couple different models here. So we're tracking here our existing workforce as well as our new hires. So this is our new requisitions potentially that we have joining the organization at a later date. All of these columns completely customizable to however you all put together your plan. So these columns here, whatever areas of metadata you want, maybe you want employee ID or name or job title, location, department, all of those elements can be baked on into your existing workforce and your new hires here. And this is where we actually call out which ramp type those people are on. So if you're a new attorney at the organization and you started in September, you're going to follow this ramping curve where you're not going to be expected to be fully ramped or fully billing until month 10. So to drill on into this a little bit, right, we have Legal Resource 28, who is an attorney at our law firm. Starting in January, they are set on an accelerated ramp and are going to be getting paid 175 grand a year. I'm going to go ahead and right click on this attorney, go on into row details so we can see all of our calculations that are going to be evaluating for us. Scroll on over to 2023 here, and that's when we're able to see our salary, our benefits, our total compensation, our pay rate, as well as here's that ramp schedule, right? So we right clicked and drilled in on this individual here that's on an accelerated ramp, and we can actually see the ramp percentage here. So we can see, all right, 50% of the way ramped. That's 80 available hours. Now they're 70% of the way ramped because they have their months in seat calculation up here at the top. We're calculating your tenure and your lifetime that you have been at the organization. So now we see our ramp percentage, our tenure, and our months in seat. And we're able to see, okay, since they were an accelerated hire for our ramping schedule, 5 months in to their tenure at the organization, we expect them to be 100% ramped and hitting all of their productivity metrics. So we can see their available hours target of 160 hours based off of that hours per week assumption we keyed in, right? So back in our utilization metric, we had our 40 hours per week. Maybe if we did 42 hours per week and we save that change, let's go on back to our resource review sheet and actually go ahead and track what that did for us. I'm going to come on back here, drill on into that same row for that same attorney. So now we're going to go ahead and say 175 grand, drill on over with our new hours per week expectation to January 2023 when this individual starts. And now we can see 42 hours per week. Our new available hours after this individual is 100% ramped is now going to be 168 hours available for this attorney to work. Now, what's great is all of this is going to map back to your Workday HCM environment. So this is where we close that loop and do our workforce planning and then actually get into the headcount reconciliation process where we have our new hires. So we expect this paralegal to join here in June of 2023. And then this paralegal, when they actually join the firm, we're going to have the actual pay rate that they're getting paid, their actual start date, and then we can run some calculations and reconcile and compare the two. But all of these columns are going to map straight on back to, like I said, Workday HCM for you, where you're able to completely automate this reconciliation and headcount tracking and associated cost forecasting with it. So it's going to take out a lot of the manual labor for you guys. I'm sure a lot of the listeners and people on the line here today are maybe doing this a little bit in adaptive, but still somewhat offline in Excel, where they're going to have individual rows for every attorney. And then off to the side, they're going to have to manually calculate their salaries, their benefits, their taxes, their ramping schedule. If they leave, we need to build out that attrition flag to track our people leaving or joining and our overall headcount at the group. Right? That's a lot of work to be able to maintain in a kind of static environment, something like Excel. Building out these models and integrating them back directly to your source of truth is just a huge value driver. And obviously connecting it back to a Workday HCM where we can actually drill on in back to our HRIS and automate that information in and have the automated metadata creation. Just a big, big value driver. So not only leveraging adaptive for your revenue and expense modeling, but also your headcount tracking and your headcount forecasting and your reconciliation after you maybe finish the month. You want to go back and see how you did versus what you planned. Resource review is how you're going to get there. Okay. A couple more things to show here. We hit on this out of the gate when we talked about KPIs, right? A big thing that we run into when we work with a lot of these law firms is customers and attorneys are bringing their own customers to us, right? Building out that book of business. If you're a reputable attorney in your location or industry, you're probably going to have some individuals or some corporations follow you to whichever law firm you go to. So we're going to need to ensure that they're getting paid out and they're getting their split for the new business that they're providing and that they're bringing uh, our new law firm, our new organization. So in this example, this is kind of a stock and mock example when we think about breaking out commissions due for our different attorneys. So now when we take a look here at our first example, client one here, client one leveraged attorney one, and they're getting a 2% split for this month. So they bring us a new customer. We're allocating 2% of the total overall firm-wide payout for all of the billable hours that are going down to go ahead and pay on out to this attorney. So we can go ahead and say for client one, we owe $1,300 and $666 to attorney one and four respectively for this client for this month. You can come on in here and adjust these rates or split this out, right? You can see case four actually got brought to us for client two from attorney two and from attorney six. So if I scroll on down to client two, we can see all the attorneys that have brought us specific cases for the specific client. And we can split this and actually allocate it out evenly or even disproportionately across our different legal resources that we have inside of the organization. You want to be able to drill in, right? You can come on in, right click in, go on into your row details and track the commissions payable to the attorney, total commissions due. We can actually have this calculate over the life of the case with us. Go ahead and track all of that, right? To see our commissions payable, what is our actual revenue by case and commissions due by case, and the different attorneys that need to go ahead and get paid out off of their revenue sharing split. And I'm sure, we can break this out differently for different attorneys. Someone that's a managing partner at our law firm is probably going to have a little bit of a different commission split that someone that's potentially a junior attorney that's bringing us on some new business. So we want to be able to allocate out different commission rates and different payables based on the individual legal resource or the individual client or case that we're taking a look at. So that's commissions payable. Last tab here is expenses, and then I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple questions that we have. So we're going to take a look at our expense breakdown. This is where we're consolidating and aggregating all of our information for our forecast period, where we're tracking our revenues and then our payroll. If I hover over my payroll, you can right click onto this, leverage our Cell Explorer, and see the information breakdown for that. So I can see where is that sitting. Okay, and what's the formula for it? Well, we're taking our monthly compensation and we're adding it along here. So I can drill on into that. And then now what's great about the Cell Explorer, and honestly a key differentiator of adaptive planning, is that this drill path comes to you already configured. You don't have to go in and apply some MDX code and make your own drill path inside of adaptive. The drill path is out of the box functionality. You don't have to go in and code and say, drill on down into individual department and then individual attorney and then individual, yada, yada, yada. The system's going to come to you with that. And then you can say, all right, here's the breakdown of that $170,000 of salary expense on our payroll. What sheet is that coming from? Oh, it's coming from my existing personnel roster. I can actually now go ahead and drill on in and get there as well. And now we're taking a look at that same workforce plan that we went ahead and took a look at a little bit earlier. So tracking all of that, right, we can come in and bring in our OPEX to get us down to our net income to kick off our three-statement financial statement forecast, where our net income is going to obviously impact our cash position, and then we can do our balance sheet forecasting with some DSO and DPO working capital assumptions, and then changes in our general ledger are potentially getting us to our cash flow. If you leverage a direct method cash flow, we can completely configure that as well for you and go off of a sources and uses perspective. Just completely up to the customer in terms of how they want to go ahead and forecast out their financial statements. We have a couple minutes left here. A couple questions I've gotten. So questions on the integration. Like I talked about a little bit earlier, we can pull this information from absolutely anywhere, but we'll do it on a scheduled cadence as well. So this data is going to come in however frequent you want that to be. We have customers that do this every single hour. We have customers that do this once a day. And then we can also do it on an ad hoc basis in addition to our scheduled load. So that's a good question. One other one we have here is how configurable are these dashboards? These dashboards are completely customizable, right? So maybe you have some different revenue KPIs or some different revenue metrics you want to go ahead and take a look at. you can go ahead and configure these all for you guys, right? Based off of your use case and your business specifications. These are all completely drag and drop, easy to build. Anybody can come in here, get their hands dirty in a dashboard and build something out for you guys. Or maybe you look at utilization a little bit differently, or just want to have a couple extra KPIs, right? Build that into your dashboard. Uh, but yes, good question. These are completely configurable and customizable. And then you can make these and have them be a personal dashboard, or you can share it out to your different users that you have inside of the organization as well. So maybe this is a dashboard I want just to be owned by myself, or maybe this is a dashboard that should go out to our overall, you know, whole financial department inside of the organization, right? You can go ahead and share this out as well. So thank you guys for those questions. If anybody else has any, please feel free to drop them in the chat in our questions area. That's what I had scheduled for us today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share here. But, we really appreciate the time today, guys. We'll wait here and see if we have any final questions. But if not, please reach out to Dan and myself. We're happy to showcase the power of adaptive planning and show how law firms are leveraging this. Thanks for screen sharing there, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. Mark Bonner, are you able to join now, or can we hear you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Why don't
Yep.
you, when we go to wrap it up here, we did want to talk about one great customer story. So, Mark, why don't you give us a little more information about Pinsent?
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and thanks, Bo, for the wonderful demonstration. Even my first time seeing a few of those things, so that was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to just capstone this with one example of one of our legal customers, Pinsent Masons. They've actually been a customer now for a handful of years, but thought it was fitting because they are in what we determine at Workday as our medium enterprise segment. So they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 total employees, 25 global offices, and half a billion or more in revenue. But they came to us back when they grew by a merger. They were doubling in size, and they were really just looking to get a better hold on not just their financial planning, but what Workday Adaptive opened them up to was also their workforce planning and the ability to meld those two. So fast forward today, they're modeling capacity based on revenue. As far as like a growth M&A standpoint, they're modeling new expansions as far as kind of having a maintainable capital plan. And then they just grew into a much more mature, continuous, active planning cycle. One, where you saw today just how simple and easy it can be to apply changes, inflict, alterations to inputs, and understand what that impact's going to be. So, not only from a financial planning sense, but also just, being a people business, they got a lot more insight, a lot more trusted insight and credibility to the business as far as a workforce standpoint as well. And being able to bring those two together was just beauty for them. So, long time happy customer in the legal industry. Dan, you can hit the next one. We just have one quote from their financial accounting manager, but Bo hit on it at the top of the presentation. The first inherent gain to deploying adaptive planning is with the time savings. We're accelerating, what is formerly sometimes arduous, laborious planning, reporting, analysis cycles. Frankly, the time doesn't even persist for the analysis because we are so inundated with just getting the plan done. So hear it from them. The time savings, ease of analysis. What they're able to achieve with adaptive. Really, not unique to them. Going from a tactical FP&A group to a much more strategic advisory group, being able to really unlock that next level of capacity for FP&A and being able to provide more to the business. And Dan, you can just go 2 slides ahead now to next steps. But as we finally wrap here, do just want to say thank you again for the time. Hope this was everything you hoped it to be and maybe more. We want to ensure we're on the mark, so feedback is encouraged. And then otherwise, we want to set you on a path. If you saw some things you liked today and want to speak more about it with someone like myself, Dan, or your Workday account manager, we would love to hear it. We would love to help guide you, shepherd you on this path. So, we foreshadow some planning use cases. Bo did one of those slides earlier. So, Bo certainly showed adaptive planning for the legal industry and artistic and a myriad of different ways today. But there's always more. Secondly, we hold a monthly virtual planning test drive. Great feedback comes from that. So think your FP&A lead, head, or even analyst levels trying to experience a day in the life as an administrator. Put it to the test out the usability, ability to execute with this tool. We're pretty sure you'll like it. And then, Pinson Masons is our only legal customer. As expected, there's confidentiality sometimes, but as we get rolling and showing you the art of the possible, want to make sure you're understanding and trusting that you're in good company. So always supportive of peer-to-peer conversations. Lastly, always need to make a business case, and what group is more privy to that. So we also have resources to help you, not just compute ROI, but actually, put the pieces together in a meaningful way that define what you're trying to achieve, what the project constitutes, and of course, what it's going to mean for the business. What is the measurable impact, of course, that we can help you project. So, common next steps for our customers that are interested in taking that leap into financial planning under the Workday umbrella.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
yeah, I think we can call it a wrap. Again, thanks for attending. Thanks, Bo and Active Cyber for supporting this, and great job. It was really informative.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
All right.